You're listening to Kempire here on the Kempire Radio Network. Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. And also subscribe to the Kempire podcast. That's where you will get our live recaps, but also special episodes, including Club Kempire, where it's exclusive for our Apple Podcast subscribers, paid subscribers. There is a free 3-day trial, so be sure to check that out. I do want to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone that donated to our breast cancer awareness fundraiser for Black Women's Health Imperative. We raised over $3,700, and we're still raising. Still the 31st. Happy Halloween. We are still raising money, so feel free to donate what you can, and you can check it out on this video and other videos in regards to how you can donate. 100% of your donation will be going to the organization, so thank you to everyone that donated or shared our videos for other people to donate. We appreciate you. I will also be posting links to 2 organizations, including Bethany Frankel's Be Strong organization that is going to be on the ground in Jamaica, helping Jamaica. Not just this week, not just when the headlines start, they will be helping for a while in Jamaica with all of the damage that's going on over there. So if you have it in you, please feel free. There will be actual qualified organizations that you can contribute to. I know there's a lot of scams out there, unfortunately, that happens when relief like this is needed. There are scammers out there. So if you want legit places to support, I've posted links in the description, along with everything else, Kempire. All right? The Braxtons. I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to talk about the Braxtons. I don't even need to talk about last week's episode because I feel like everything ties together. Everything ties together, and everything is surrounded in regards to this one sit-down. A sit-down, according to Toni Braxton, she thought they were going to come together and talk about their family and talk about their mom's health and things like that. She was blindsided when Tamar brought up this cease and desist. That Tamar claims that her sisters were trying to stop her business. And I can't tell you the amount of times I rewound the first 6 minutes of this episode. And for those that don't know, I believe you can watch this right now on All Black. And I believe the episode will air this evening on WeTV. All right. So for those that want to know, because I'm not sure when I'm going to put this out, this is pre-recorded, so calm down. All right. So I rewound the beginning of this multiple times because I was like, wait, what did she say? And I said this before when we recapped the first couple of episodes, and I've been talking about this new iteration, this season 2, and the toxicity that's been coming out from the sneak peeks. There's just certain things you just can't come back from when you're family. And very much like what I was saying during our Real Housewives of Orange County recap. And if you're not familiar with the show, you won't understand. But if you are, and I said, it's very possible for Gretchen to be a liar and Tamara to also be a liar. Those two things can't exist. And I feel like, especially when it comes to the Braxton, I see it all the time in the comment section where people feel like, oh, Tamar's vindicated. Tamar really is the victim. The real villain of the family is Miss E, or the real villain of the family is Toni, or the real villain of the family is Towanda. No, the real villain could be all of them. They grew up in this toxic behavior, this toxic cycle, and they all have done things to each other. Because I'm telling you, I've covered so many fights that Tamar has had, not just with her family, but with other celebrities. You're not going to sit here and tell me, and you guys told me the other day, they felt like you guys felt like I've already given Tamar too much grace. I know she doesn't agree with you, but she has no idea the amount of grace I've given her over the years. And I will give her some grace here because I don't think she's 100% at fault. I don't think any of them are 100% at fault. And we're going to talk about some of the things that came out during this argument, including an argument that got physical. Part of me, okay, we have a lot to unpack. So buckle up. This is not going to be a long one because I watched the entire episode, and honestly, the rest of the episode is kind of related to what happened in the beginning. But the reason why people are going to watch this episode is because they've been regurgitating some of these scenes. And I feel like after watching it, the way that it was cut up and edited was very sloppy, because some of it, when they released the sneak peek, was in order. And then when you actually see it, I'm like, okay, so the order wasn't that wasn't the order. It's very weird. Very weird, but we're going to piece it together for you the best way that we can. Okay. So, as I said before, I feel like when people watch this, I've seen it so many times in the comment section. Oh, I've been telling you Toni is the real villain of the family, or Towanda is the real villain of the family. And somehow that absolves Tamar from her grown self. She's a 40-something-year-old woman. Yes, I know she's the youngest. I'm the youngest of 6. So I can have some perspective on being the youngest. I don't act like a brat like Tamar, though. And I know my siblings would confirm, I don't act like a brat. I don't act like, oh my God, I'm the youngest and I'm not having temper tantrums. That probably could be because I'm a Taurus and I'm very level-headed, okay? All right. So I feel like so many people want to give Tamar some grace, and because there are other people here that are clearly probably just as bad, or if not worse. But I feel like all of them, at what particular point when we have trauma in our lives as young people, do we make a decision to go get help and heal that trauma and not just be out here in these streets causing trauma to other people? And Tamar has said that she's been in therapy. It doesn't feel like it, because I remember falling for her. I was like, oh, she's in therapy now? Okay, I love the way she handled this whole Bang a Yang Yang Man situation. For those that don't know who Bang a Yang Yang Man, it was the guy that she met on that reality show that she ends up marrying. We didn't find out they got married till they got divorced. I've covered Tamar so much here on the channel, okay? And apparently she watches. Hey, Tamar. Sidebar Tamar. Tamar released her, what is it called? Heartbreak Retrograde, which, Tamar, I will say this, I'm glad you waited, because we are literally about to be in a retrograde in about a week. Yeah, Mercury retrograde is coming. Hey, Nicki Minaj. So I haven't watched it, but I actually do want to watch it. But when I fast forward a little bit to hear one of the songs, and I was like, this is what we need from Tamar. Tamar has so much potential as a singer. And I know, Tamar, the original fight that we got into, you probably don't remember this, but I'll remind you. I was critical of seeing you live. This was years ago. She was on tour with John Legend, and I made some comments. My intern at the time, their job was to post some of the things that I was saying on social media. I didn't tell them to tag Tamar. I don't know why they would tag Tamar. And so that led to an online beef between me and Tamar years ago, over a decade ago. Because I had thoughts on Tamar and her live performance. I was not impressed. I actually was looking forward to her performance because I liked her. I like her project, her Love and War project. Because, I also interviewed LaShawn Daniels years ago. Iconic songwriter, may he rest in peace. You saw him on Tamar and Vince as well. So I know that Tamar has potential. And even before Love and War, I love Tamar's "And You Don't Wanna Love Me, Don't Love Me." That's what that before Love and War in that album, that was my favorite Tamar song. And I was like, she needed to be famous. But this was years ago, and we didn't really hear from Tamar after that. Okay? Still one of my favorite Tamar songs, to be honest with you. Apparently, I think that's Nene's favorite song too. I think Tamar performed that at Greg's memorial service or something like that. Love that song. I still love that song. Anyway, so I fast forward the Heartbreak Retrograde just to kind of hear a little bit of the music. And one of the songs, and she's working with Tricky Stewart, another producer that I've interviewed, and he's a legend. He's written so many hits. Just Google schmoogle him. And one of the songs, I just heard a little bit of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, she sounds amazing. So I really do want to sit down and watch it. It's like a film. I don't know if I really want to watch the film. I do want to hear the music, though. So I don't know if the project is out. It makes sense for her to release this now, even though she said that she was delaying. She's like, y'all don't want me to release the album? I'm not going to release the album. Conveniently, the week that she's talking about the album on the show, she's going to drop the film. Tamar, it's okay, girl. It's okay.
The lie.
And also, I'm going to mention this because so many people want to make Tamar the angel because her sisters aren't the best either. They want to make her an angel. And I have to say, I've been watching old clips from Celebrity Big Brother, which she won. I'll give her kudos. She deserved to win. She did a good job. But there were some arguments that were had during that season, including with Kandi, but they were good at the end of that season. But during the season, they got into this little bit of a tiff. But it really didn't need to be a tiff. And I saw the toxicity, and this could stem from her trauma with her sisters, and maybe something with Kandi reminds her of her sisters. But I remember, I forgot they were talking about relevant versus, I forgot what the other word that they used, but she was just talking about relevancy, and Kandi was defending. She was like, I would say that this person's relevant. She was like talking about Tiny, and she was talking about someone else. And Tamar got triggered thinking that Kandi was setting her up to, like, she was talking bad about like Tiny and these other people. And Kandi was like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, I still think that these people are considered relevant. And Tamar wasn't trying to hear it. And so when Kandi left, mind you, the Kandi and Tamar interaction was brief. It was a few minutes. This clip, though, is for 30 minutes. And Tamar went on and on. She's trying to set me up. You see, I don't like this. She do this all the time. And let me tell you, when you watch it, it really is like watching someone have a psychological breakdown because of the way she escalated it in her mind. And the other guy that was in there, I forgot his name, who was also on that season, I wonder what he was thinking in that moment. Because in his head, he's sort of like, I don't think it was that deep. But that is the cycle with Tamar. So I know you guys want to give her grace because her sisters are not innocent, including you, Toni Braxton, legend, heavyweight champion. Including you. But you're an older sibling. I got to talk to my oldest sister to kind of get her perspective on the older sibling perspective. Because I think that would be interesting to know on how she felt as the older sibling. Because I do think the older sibling, we don't talk enough about the older sibling and what that means. Okay? And the psychology of that. This is why I got into reality television. This is why I majored in psychology for undergrad. And I got my degree. I graduated. Hey, Angel. Potomac. If you watch Potomac, you know I'm playing. I kid. I am so silly today. Okay, happy Halloween. I'm not doing anything for Halloween. I'm here working, okay? I have no plans to be in the street. I went out in the streets before because I wanted to go bring clothes for donations. And I'm already seeing the costumes. I saw these cute little kids. I saw the nanny with these two kids dressed up as like the Cowardly Lion. And it were two of them in the stroller. I was like, okay, now that's cute. I don't want to go down. I'm telling you, when I was in graduate school at NYU, I came out of class. I had class on Halloween. And you know where NYU is. If you don't, it's in the Village where they have the big parade. I remember coming out of class and trying to make my way to the train, which means I had to take the one train. I had to go to the one train. And I remember seeing, because people for Halloween, especially for the parade, they go all out. So I'm seeing all these devils and dragons. I still remember it. I said, let me get on this train. Because, first of all, if you know New York and you see some of these TikToks and viral videos, you already know being on the train itself on any other day is a situation, okay? So can you imagine on Halloween when people can act out weird, when the veil between life and death are thin, and you are in New York City and people are now putting on these costumes and they're getting into character? I'm good. I will be here at home. I'm gonna watch me a good movie. I might watch, I was gonna say Weapons. Weapons was a good horror movie too, y'all. That came out in theaters a couple of months ago. I bought it. It was good. I might watch Sinners again. I have watched Sinners way too many times. I saw it in theaters twice. It's in theaters now. Sidebar, for those that didn't know. If you want to see it in like IMAX. It's in theaters now. I watched that so many times. I watched it on my way to Ireland. It's such a good movie. Ryan Coogler did his big one on that. The symbolism, the way that I loved it. I loved it. If you haven't seen Sinners and you want to see it in theaters, go see it this weekend. It was so good. All right, I've digressed. Where was I going? Halloween. Oh my goodness. Let me focus. Okay. Let me focus. All right, let's get into this episode because honestly, the only thing that I really want to talk about is the beginning because that's where they have the argument. Let me zoom in a little bit. I should have put some Halloween stuff. And normally I would have like a Halloween theme. I really don't care. Happy birthday to my mother. Today's her birthday, Scorpio. Yeah, my dad's birthday's in a couple of weeks. My family's safe. I hope your family is safe if they've been affected. Shout out to our Haitian brothers and sisters. Shout out to our Jamaican brothers and sisters, our Cuban brothers and sisters. Everyone in the Caribbean. I think Puerto Rico's been affected by this or will be affected by Hurricane Melissa. Don't quote me on that because I have not seen the latest update in regards to where Melissa is right now. But we're sending prayers to the Caribbean because that storm was really bad. It was a Category 5 when it hit Jamaica. So, and shout out to Shaggy, Sean Paul, Beanie Man, all of them already are on the ground and getting resources and donations to Jamaica right now. So thank you to them. Let's continue. Let me focus because I have digressed yet again. Lord, I have a lot of thoughts today. This is our key. This is our recap. We do this the way that we want to do this. And I didn't even bring my water bottle. Damn it. All right, let's get into Braxton's episode. Where did we go wrong? So we're back at this table. Toni says she didn't expect this conversation to go in this direction. And she and Tamar start to get into it. And she has to remind Tamar that she's an effing heavyweight. Here's the thing. I think Toni feels empowered. And I know for some of us watching, like, damn, Toni really be feeling like she a superstar. They all look at her as a superstar. And let's be honest, Toni Braxton is the Whitney Houston of LaFace Records. She is the Mariah Carey of Columbia Records. Okay? She was a part of that, I would say trifecta, but there was more than one. There was Toni for Babyface and L.A. Reid. There was Whitney Houston for Clive Davis. There was Mariah Carey for Tommy Mottola. And then there was Celine Dion. I don't know who, but Celine Dion was signed to, I think, Tommy Mottola too, a part of Sony. But she was a part of that era of like divas. So I understand why we as a society revere Toni. But here's a question. Do you think that this reality show has ruined Toni's legacy? I don't know if it's ruined her legacy, but it's definitely a blemish. I think we know a little too much about Toni and her family and things like that. And let's be honest, too, I don't know if the Braxton family values would have even gotten the green light if Toni didn't sign on. We have to be honest about that. Yes, it was Tamar and Vince that did the groundwork, and they're the ones who garnered this reality show. But I don't know if this reality show would have been what it is if Toni wasn't a part of it. Tamar came out as a star from it because she has a big personality, and I will never take that away from her. She's been great reality television. However, I don't think this show would have seen the light of day without Toni Braxton saying I would be a part of it because she's an icon. But I think people are now seeing like, oh my gosh, here goes Toni. Toni's saying that she's a heavyweight. A lot of people are now saying that Toni's a part of the problem. I'm not going to say that Toni's not a part of the problem. I think they all play a part. They all play a part. So this quickly pivots, though, to Tamar saying that she's concerned that someone brought this cease and desist to her home. And she says that this apartment that she's in, the same one that she lives in the same area as, well, same, I guess, building as Nene Leakes. So she says, this apartment's not even in my name. Whose name is it in? Vince? Whose name is it in? I thought that was interesting. She was like, so one of you guys had to give them my address. And then it made me wonder. And when she says that, I'm like, you had to give... Okay, so wait. To me, that didn't necessarily make sense. Because she's like, how did they get it? Trina denies it. Towanda says, I don't even know where you live. And then Tamar says, oh, but I know where you live because I gave you your down payment. Okay, we'll get there. Part of Tamar's argument here in regards to someone being sent to her apartment that no one shouldn't even know about, she says she spends a lot of money to protect her son, Logan. So that's part of why she's upset that someone came there or leaked her address to these attorneys. Trina says they would have gotten the address regardless. I don't know about that, but here we are. So Tamar points out that she gave Towanda her down payment. But here's the thing, we talked about this. We did a video talking about this conversation about the down payment and Tamar accusing Towanda of stealing from her. So we get more clarification on that. So let me break that down for you. So the down payment, according to Tamar, she says that it's $50,000. However, the bankruptcy, because we did a video on that recently. I'm giving you background, but I'm going to remind you. When Towanda filed for bankruptcy, her landlord did not want the money that was owed to them to be included in the bankruptcy. So they were taking her to court. But that's when we found out in the bankruptcy, she also included a debt that was owed to Tamar. And I said, that's weird. And I wondered what that was related to. So apparently it was related to this $35,000. Tamar says it's $50,000, but Towanda in her confessional says it's $35,000. Well, and that's what's listed on the bankruptcy. So I'm going to believe Towanda. This is why I don't necessarily believe one 100% over the other. I believe there's a sprinkle of truth in all of it. Okay. So Tamar says that I gave you the down payment for your home. And then she says, but it wasn't a gift. I want it back. And Towanda says it was a gift. Tamar says in her confessional that Towanda told her that the lenders wanted to see that money in her account before she was able to buy this home. And this was back in 2018, she says. So almost 8 years ago. Okay. So according to Tamar, she says it was only supposed to be temporary so that they saw that money in the account. Towanda says that is not the truth. It was a gift. If it was a gift, Towanda, this is where I'm catching her in a lie. If it was a gift, I do believe it was $35,000, even though Tamar says that it was $50,000. This is why I said I think some people are lying and some people are telling. I think both. They're doing both. They're giving you a little bit of the truth and a little bit of their own version of the truth. So a lie. So Towanda says that it was a gift. However, Towanda, if it was a gift, why would you include that on your bankruptcy? That doesn't make sense because a gift is not expected to be paid back. So why would you include that on your bankruptcy? I thought that was weird. Remember, if you saw my recent video on that, when we were going down the rabbit hole of the issues between Towanda and Tamar, I said, that's interesting. Why would a loan from your sister be included? Because I would assume that it wasn't a loan from your sister, that she's been taking care of you. So remember, in this conversation where they start talking about their issues, Tamar brings up the fact that Towanda has been stealing from her. So you probably want to know, what exactly was she stealing? Well, according to Tamar, she was getting a whole new phone because she realized that her credit card was being charged for this family plan. Yes, a family plan that included Towanda. So apparently Tamar's credit card was paying for a family plan. I don't know who was on the family plan. Maybe we'll get to that at some later date. Someone go ask. Who was on this family plan? Was it Towanda and the other sisters? Was it Towanda and her family? I don't know. Not that it should matter. Did Tamar know about this? I feel like it could matter in regards to knowing who and what and where was on it. Because was it a family thing? Like literally a family plan with her and her sisters? Then I could maybe understand. Maybe Tamar would be supportive. I know Toni during this argument was like, what does it matter? Family takes care of family. Because we have to keep in mind, Toni, God only knows what Toni has been taking care of when it comes to this family over the years. Remember, she brought her sisters on the road with her when she became a big star. And they were touring with her for a long time as her backup singers. Okay? So she's been taking care of them too. And Tamar apparently has been as well. That's one of the things that we discovered. That she's stepped up for her sisters time and time again. We've seen it. If you've been watching Braxton Family Values, she's helped Towanda multiple times. There's a scene. I know a lot of you have been tagging me in all this Braxton Family Values stuff on TikTok. Thank you. Yes, I remember. Tamar's been there for her sisters. I still don't think this makes Tamar innocent, and this doesn't make Towanda innocent. Some people were pointing out, I saw a clip recently where people were like, look, Tracy wasn't innocent either. May she rest in peace. They all had their things. No, nobody is innocent. Nobody in a family situation is going to necessarily be innocent except me. I'm innocent. I'm perfect. Just saying. So then they talk about that stuff because Tamar accuses Towanda of stealing from her. And that's when we get the clarification of what she meant by that. And that was the family phone plan. And Towanda was just like, oh, I'm the only one. I'm the only one on there. So it makes me wonder who exactly this family plan was for. Because Towanda wasn't taking complete ownership of it. She didn't deny it, though. I will point that out. Towanda didn't deny it. So then Towanda decides to bring up the fact that, oh, you want to talk about stealing? How about you stealing people's boyfriends? Toni Braxton's ex-boyfriend. And they mention the name, but they beep it out and they blur out their mouth so that we don't see, which I thought was interesting. Towanda shuts down and she's like, I'm not going to argue with sick people. I'm not doing that. So that's when Tamar threatens to F Towanda up. And I was like, oh. And she says, you're trying to F with my mental health. So I'm guessing Tamar did not like the fact that Towanda was making her seem like she was crazy. I can understand why she might feel that way. Okay? So Tamar claims that Toni doesn't have her back. So Toni gets really upset. And what Toni says here, if you've been watching my recaps or videos talking about these updates when it comes to the Braxton, Tamar claims that Toni doesn't have her back. And Toni's like, Toni Braxton doesn't have your back? And it's just like, the amount of times my publicist has had to come in and clean up mess for you? And Tamar looks at us like, your publicist? I have my own publicist. Which probably is not that good because, or your poor publicist, you just don't listen to what they advise. Didn't her publicist, I don't know who her publicist is because I feel like she had a publicist and then she got into a falling out with the publicist. I don't know if he was a publicist though. I don't know. But according to Toni, and I understand because when you think about it, Toni says no. Has Tamar called her publicist to do any work for her? No. But it's Toni Braxton. So if Tamar is acting a fool on social media or is caught up in some stuff, or her sisters are caught up in some stuff, like Towanda getting arrested for bad checks, that affects Toni Braxton. So that triggers her publicist to do something, to clean it up. So that's what Toni is talking about. And one of the things that Toni says, and I said this before, we've said this just the other day, I don't remember which video it was. I have a couple of videos talking about the Braxtons these last couple of weeks. Toni says that Tamar, and she says she's disappointed in Tamar. She says Tamar is comfortable being infamous instead of being famous. And she says, I don't want that for her. And I agree 100% because literally I said to you guys, Tamar doesn't care about the amount of attention that she gets, good or bad. And that's why when it came, and I believed her that an accident happened in her home because I said anything can happen in our homes. God forbid. God forbid. Anything can happen in our homes. But then it turned into this whole other situation. She's fighting with Funky Dineva. Then she's fighting with the world, accusing her of making this up. And I said, I think she thrives off of getting this attention, maybe because she didn't get this attention as being the youngest in the family. She thrives off the attention, good, bad, or indifferent. So when Toni said that this week, I was like, that's literally what I've been saying. She says Tamar is comfortable with being infamous instead of being famous. So she much rather be famous for all of these theatrics and people talking about, and she's also rewarded for it. Look, people are throwing money at her. She's giving opportunities. She's got her fans like, oh my God, I love Tamar. She's so funny. She's rewarded for this. Okay? And hence she probably feels in these moments when producing this comeback show for the Braxtons that she feels like she has to show up in these scenes and go off the way that she does. So Tamar then brings up the fact that Toni is the one that wanted to bring Ashley on the Braxtons. So Toni addresses this in her confessional, and she said that she did have a conversation with Tamar about this. But I didn't understand 100% what the reasoning that Toni said, because she said that instead of having Ashley on your Chitlin Circuit podcast, then you should have her on the Braxtons. But what Toni is trying to say, like, it was something she put out there. It wasn't necessarily something that was going to happen. I don't know. I couldn't explain it, but basically Toni admitted to saying, yes, I did say that bring her on the Braxtons if you're going to do this. So, which is interesting that I guess maybe later on in these next couple of episodes, they'll talk more about the Ashley of it all. But okay. So I do find it interesting, though, because I feel like Tamar mentions Birdman's name. So you may have seen, and I don't know if there's any truth to this, I'm just going to say allegedly, there's a story going around that Tamar and Birdman had a relationship years ago before Toni and Birdman had a relationship. Literally, Toni was on the Today Show this week promoting the new tour that she's going on, New Edition and Boyz II Men. And she was talking about her relationship with Birdman, or Brian, as she likes to call him, and them celebrating 1 year of being married. So, and she says, yeah, we've been, talking for like a couple of years. I was like, a couple of years? You guys have been talking for longer than a couple of years. You've been married now for a year. But I feel like Birdman has been in your life romantically for a while. But maybe she's only owned it for the last couple of years. Okay, we'll go by that. So there's this rumor out there, and then it didn't help that this rumor came after the verses where you see Tamar there. Toni's not there. You see Tamar there, though, dabbing the sweat off of Birdman's head, and that came after we saw that sneak peek where Towanda's accusing her of sleeping with Toni Braxton's ex-boyfriend. I never assumed that it was Birdman, though. A lot of people believe that it was L.A. Reid's brother that Toni allegedly dated back when. I don't know if there's any. I know that they're pinning it down. I think someone said it was when Tamar was like 18 or 19, so it was like in the 90s. So it makes me really believe that it may have been L.A. Reid's brother. But I think it's unimportant, whoever it might be. Tamar denies it. Towanda says, no, you did. But Tamar says, oh, well, he told me that he screwed you. Now I'm starting to think, And Tawanda's just like, she's like, there are no miles on this coochie. What? Oh, God.
Lies! The lie!
I meant to press this one. Okay?
That's really upsetting to me, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't say that.
Just say, I don't know who, what, where, but I feel like Tamar says later, not later, but in this back and forth, and she would say, do you think I F, and she doesn't say, but for me, I thought she said Birdman. So do you think I F Birdman too? So she mentions another name, and that name triggers Toni. And I think it's Birdman because of Toni's reaction, because that's her current man. If she said Carrie, her ex-husband, I don't think anyone would care. I don't think she would care. I don't think Toni would care. But I think she would care if you're talking about my current husband. And you don't know if they're going to, blur that out or, beep it out or whatever it may be. Toni gets up and wants to fight Tamar, which was weird. So Toni gets up, and Tamar's like, she gets in Toni's face too. We've never seen this between Toni and Tamar. Obviously, they're in a better place now. So Trina tries to get between them. So you see Trina take her hand and try to move Tamar. Not aggressively, but she does touch Tamar. She does touch Tamar first. So Tamar just like tries to fight Trina. And she's like, you touch me first. You touch me first. And Trina's just like, I did not touch her first. And she's like, this is like, Toni is a small woman and Tamar is very big. We can't let this happen. And Trina's just like, you're a superstar, Toni. You can't be getting into these fights. So while Trina's trying to talk to Toni, Tamar yanks Trina's hair. And after she yanks Trina's hair and Trina's just like, what's going on? And she's trying to talk to Toni. Then Tamar kicks Trina. And she's like, why are you, pulling my hair and trying to kick me? She's like, because you touched me. So Toni's in her confession. She's like, you know how everyone has an alter ego? Okay. Didn't know. She says, mine is Toni Michelle. And that's who was coming out. Because Toni was getting crunk. She was ready to fight Tamar. Okay. So Towanda says, let's call the cops. Not call the cops. Did y'all pay attention to that part? And at first I thought she was joking. But she looked like she was dead serious. And Toni was like, no, I'm not calling the cops. I'm not calling the cops. So Towanda says, let's call the cops and press charges. See, this is why people do not like you, Towanda. They say you're the sneaky one. You sitting here trying to get Tamar arrested when she could probably get you arrested for allegedly stealing from her? I was like, wait a minute. See, more stuff came out from this fight, y'all. So, she says that Tamar accuses her sisters of being jealous of her. And so she walks around and she's like, I understand why y'all just jealous of me. And and then she says, and then she said, if y'all weren't jealous of me, y'all would not try and destroy my business. I don't understand how the cease and desist was trying to destroy your business. This is where I feel like she takes a small thing and turns it into a bigger thing. A cease and desist is not stopping someone's business. If you feel like you have legal standing to do what you're doing, a cease and desist is just a warning that they might proceed with legal action. You could still do it, and you still did it. A cease and desist, especially if you feel like you are within your legal rights, you should respond to the cease and desist, but it doesn't really stop your business. It doesn't. It doesn't stop your business, especially if you feel like I have every right to have a conversation with my niece about these accusations. It doesn't stop your business. So I feel like you're putting, 10 on, what do they say? 100 on 10. Come on. If it was a lawsuit, then maybe. But a cease and desist is a warning. If you do not cease or desist, or deceased, as she said, then we will file legal action against you, which I don't believe that they would. Let's be honest. And I don't know who the cease and desist is actually from. Is this the one from the brother? They haven't mentioned the brother at all. So, I don't know. Here's where Tamar again goes too far. So Tamar says that she swears on Towanda's kids' lives that Towanda slept with Toni's ex. And Towanda, obviously, her children, it's like, don't be swearing on my kids' lives with that. I didn't like that either. See, this is why I say none of these people are innocent, and Tamar's not innocent either. Why would you swear on her children, your niece and nephew's lives, to say that, yes, Towanda slept with Toni's ex? How does that make sense to anyone? That doesn't make sense to me. Anyone else? But that's me. All right. So the rest of the episode, I don't know if it's necessarily worth talking about. Towanda's getting ready for her shower. Towanda gets a call from Toni. Toni, they do talk about Angie Stone's passing, the accident that happened. Toni talks about how she's been a family friend and how they share the musical director that Toni has. So, and a lot of the musicians and the background singers that Toni uses, so does Angie. So some of them won't be able to make this concert that's coming up that Toni's working on. Then the same thing happens with, so Toni calls Towanda as she's at the bridal shower with her ladies of honor and tells Towanda that she will not be able to make it. So Towanda's upset. Trina's starting to cry. And Towanda's just like, I don't understand why she didn't block out this weekend. And I think some of this is Toni is in her own world. She's very much a diva. She's very much like, this is my world. But I also think it's an element of like, I really don't want to be around my family, especially after what happened last time. And she knows that this is going to be filmed. But in Towanda's regard, later on in the episode, she says, Toni not coming is also symbolic of, there's another sister missing from the situation. And yes, Tamar is not invited. She says she doesn't want any negativity around her. I don't blame her. No matter if you like Towanda or whatever, this is her wedding. I don't blame her for not inviting Tamar, sister or not. I'm not one of those people that's going to sit here and tell you just because someone's blood or family that you should be entertaining toxicity in your life. Even if the audience doesn't view it as toxicity and you view Towanda as the toxic one, in her world, Tamar is the toxic one. So I understand for her wedding why you would not invite Tamar, sister or no sister. I don't blame her. To be honest with you, especially you swearing on my kids. No, we're not doing that. In another scene, we have Tamar doing her album shoot. This is where she talks about, she's going to be talking about the Bang Yang Yang Man and that relationship that was like last year. And she's been working with Tricky Stewart. She looks great. I look forward to listening to the project because I'm going to always give it a listen because I can separate the artist from the person. Because I think she is very talented. But Towanda is getting frustrated. She's planning this Bridgerton esque party that Toni won't be at. But she's like, where are my ladies of honor? They're late. She's gotten there before them. She looks great. I actually like the idea of a Bridgerton party. I saw that J-Lo did that for her birthday party last year or something like that. Fine. She's all about being a bride. But the big thing is she's not inviting Tamar. She doesn't want any negativity around her, but she does want her sister, Toni Braxton, to be there. Toni is going to be attending the wedding, which you may have seen video footage of the wedding online now. We're starting to see that. But Toni will not be making the rehearsal dinner. I don't think Toni likes being around her family. I really don't. I think there's a lot of toxicity. There's a lot of pressure to take care of the family. God only knows if they're asking her for stuff. So I think there's a lot of different elements that are playing out why Toni doesn't want to be around her family. There's also the health aspect. Toni, she has lupus. She has things that have, because of lupus that affects her heart. And she doesn't feel up to it. Sometimes she also has to fly back. She lives in LA. She's got to fly back to Atlanta. She doesn't live in Atlanta. She might have a home there, but she's mostly in LA. So I can see multiple reasons why Toni Braxton likes to keep a distance. But in Towanda's defense, and Trina said this, Towanda feels like she shows up for everyone in the family and no one shows up for her. Guys, I want to know your thoughts and opinions. I had to do a quick recap talking about the latest episode 4 of the Braxtons. We talked a little bit about episode 3. I just feel like all of them are the same because it was about this fight. Well, the fight plays out. That is what's played out. I want to know what you are thinking of these first 4 episodes of the Braxtons. Are you enjoying it? Are you triggered by it? Are you just watching my recaps? How would you rate it? Let's continue this conversation in the comments section. As always, again, any way that you can support Jamaica, links will be available in the description. Any ways that you can continue supporting our breast cancer awareness fundraiser will be linked somewhere around this video. All of your donations will 100% go to the organization Black Women's Health Imperative. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Let's continue this conversation in the comment section. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you're listening to the audio version, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. I will see you guys in the comment section or in the live chat because this is pre-recorded if you didn't notice. Bye, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to Kempire here on the Kempire Radio Network. Don't forget to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And for more information on the podcast, head on over to KempireRadio.com.